Welcome to this English learning story. Today, you will listen to and read a story about courage, culture, and new beginnings. The title of the story is First Time Traveling to New York City. This story is written for B1 level learners. You will learn everyday travel vocabulary, useful expressions for airports and hotels, describing feelings and experiences, conversations with new people, cultural observations. Try to listen or read slowly. Pause when you need. Repeat sentences aloud to improve your pronunciation. Now, let's begin our journey. When Sara received her visa approval email, she read it 3 times. She could not believe it. She was finally going to the United States. Not just anywhere in America. She was going to New York City. For many years, Sara had seen pictures of tall buildings, yellow taxis, and bright lights. She watched movies that showed busy streets and people walking quickly with coffee cups in their hands. Now she would see everything with her own eyes. Sara was 24 years old. She lived in a small town. She had never traveled alone before. She had never been on a long international flight. She felt excited, but also nervous. 2 weeks before her trip, she started preparing. She made a list of things to pack: clothes, comfortable shoes, travel documents, phone charger, power adapter, medicine, and a small notebook. Her mother helped her fold her clothes carefully. "Don't forget your jacket," her mother said. "The weather changes quickly." Sara smiled. "Yes, Mama, I know." The night before her flight, she could not sleep. She kept imagining the moment when she would land in New York. She imagined tall skyscrapers touching the sky. On the morning of her flight, Sara arrived at the airport 3 hours early. The airport was crowded. People were standing in long lines with suitcases. She took a deep breath. "Okay," she told herself, "I can do this." At the check-in counter, the airline staff asked for her passport and ticket. "Is this your first time traveling internationally?" the woman asked kindly. "Yes," Sara replied with a small smile. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." After checking in her luggage, Sara went through security. She felt a little confused about removing her shoes and placing her bag on the belt, but she watched other passengers and followed them. Finally, she sat near her gate and looked at the large airplanes outside the window. They looked powerful and strong. When boarding started, her heart beat fast. She walked inside the plane and found her seat by the window. During the flight, she watched a movie, listened to music, and sometimes looked at the clouds outside. The flight was long, almost 14 hours. She tried to sleep, but only slept for 2 hours. When the captain announced, "We are now landing in New York," Sara looked outside. She saw water, bridges, and many buildings in the distance. She whispered, "I'm here." When Sara left the airport, she felt cold wind on her face. The air smelled different. The sky looked wider. She took a taxi from the airport to her hotel in Manhattan. The taxi driver asked, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Pakistan," she said. "First time in New York?" "Yes." He laughed. "Welcome to the city that never sleeps." Sara looked out of the taxi window. She saw highways, tunnels, and tall buildings getting closer and closer. When they entered Manhattan, she could not stop staring. The skyscrapers were taller than she imagined. The streets were busy. People were walking fast. Her hotel was near Times Square. When she stepped out of the taxi and looked around, her mouth opened in surprise. Giant screens showed advertisements. Bright lights covered the buildings. There were street performers dressed like superheroes. It's like a movie, she thought. At the hotel reception, the man behind the desk smiled. "Welcome. May I have your passport, please?" After checking in, Sara went to her room. It was small but clean. She placed her suitcase near the bed and sat down. For a moment, everything felt quiet. She was in New York City, alone. She felt a little scared. What if she got lost? What if she could not understand people? What if something went wrong? Then she stood up and looked out the window. She could see lights and traffic below. She remembered something her father told her before she left. "Be brave. The world is big, but you are strong." She smiled and decided to go outside for a short walk. Sara walked slowly through the busy streets. She saw many restaurants: Italian, Chinese, Mexican, Indian, American. She felt hungry. She saw a small pizza shop and went inside. "Hi, what can I get for you?" the worker asked. "One slice of cheese pizza, please." She watched as he heated the pizza and placed it on a paper plate. When she took her first bite, she smiled. It was delicious, warm, cheesy, and crispy. She sat by the window and watched people outside. Some were tourists taking photos. Others looked like office workers going home. For the first time that day, she felt calm. The next morning, Sara woke up early because of jet lag. She decided to visit Central Park. When she entered the park, she was surprised. In the middle of such a busy city, there was a large green space with trees, grass, and lakes. People were jogging. Some were walking their dogs. A man was playing the violin. Sara sat on a bench and opened her notebook. She wrote, "New York is loud and bright, but also peaceful and beautiful." A woman sitting next to her smiled. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Yes," Sara replied. "It's my first time here." "Welcome," the woman said warmly. They talked for 10 minutes. The woman's name was Emily. She lived in New York for 10 years. She gave Sara some advice. Don't try to see everything in one day. Just enjoy the moment. On her third day, Sara took a ferry to see the famous Statue of Liberty. When she saw the statue standing tall in the water, she felt emotional. The statue looked strong and proud. It held a torch high in the air. Sara thought about freedom, dreams, and new beginnings. She took many photos, but also spent time just looking at it quietly. People from all over the world come here, she thought. Now I am one of them. Later that week, Sara decided to try the subway alone. At first, she felt confused. The subway map looked complicated. There were many lines and numbers. She asked a man for help. "Excuse me, how can I get to Brooklyn?" He showed her which train to take. Downtown platform, take the 2 train. She thanked him and followed the signs carefully. When the train arrived, it was crowded. She held the pole tightly and listened to the announcements. Even though it was noisy, she felt proud. She was learning how to move around the city. One evening, while walking back to her hotel, Sara realized she took the wrong street. The buildings looked unfamiliar. Her heart started beating fast. She checked her phone. The battery was only 5%. Stay calm, she told herself. She walked into a small store and politely asked the cashier for directions. He explained how to return to her hotel. When she finally arrived safely, she felt relieved. That night, she understood something important. Traveling alone is not always easy, but each small problem makes you stronger. On her last 2 days, Sara joined a walking tour. There she met a girl named Anna from Spain. Anna was also traveling alone. They shared stories about their families, their dreams, and their fears. Together, they visited Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. The sky turned orange and pink. The city looked magical. "I'm glad I came," Sara said. "Me too," Anna replied. They promised to stay in touch. On her final day, Sara packed her suitcase slowly. She felt different from the girl who arrived 1 week ago. She was more confident, more independent. At the airport, she looked back one last time at the city skyline. "Thank you," she whispered. On the plane, she wrote in her notebook, "My first trip to New York City was not just about buildings and lights. It was about discovering myself. I learned that I am brave. I learned that the world is full of kind people. And I learned that dreams can come true." When she landed in her home country, her family hugged her tightly. "How was it?" her mother asked. Sara smiled. "It was big. It was beautiful. It was scary. It was amazing, and I will never forget it." Travel teaches us more than books sometimes. It teaches confidence. It teaches communication. It teaches courage. Just like Sara, you can explore new places, even if you feel afraid at first. Keep learning. Keep practicing English. And maybe one day you will tell your own story about your first time in New York City.